Hi, welcome to Racehouse with me, Jolie.
And me, Darren Reeves.
In Chihuahua, it was the Japanese Grand Prix 2024. A lot of big hopes there. A lot of big hopes for Yuki Tsunoda being his home race. And we're in this Asian part, the Far East part of the calendar, which are kind of being bunched together for logistical reasons, environmental reasons. It makes more sense to do them in one spot. So we've just had Australia, Japan was just now, and then we've got China next time. Japanese Grand Prix. I mean, I don't know. Going into it, I don't know what real hopes were there. There were some interesting things in qualifying, namely Hamilton, I think Ricciardo as well, probably the big stories from that. But I don't know. I was a bit bored by this race, Darren. I just didn't feel there was a lot of action.
Well, Joe, first of all, Liberty Media have been trying to get Japan earlier in the calendar because of the look of the track. In spring, it's cherry blossom trees everywhere. You know, we've had the bees of Vettel on turn 1 and 2. Now we've got the trees of the cherry blossom. Japan's one of my favorite countries I've ever visited, and gutted I never got to go to Suzuka when I was working in Tokyo and then Osaka because it's right between the two. But the train did not stop, I'm afraid. And but that's what Liberty Media have been trying to do. Go, it's beautiful, and why hold a race in tornado season in Japan? You know, we've had the deluges of rain there. Let's do it at a time when the weather's going to be more predictable. So I think bringing it together with Australia and China, bringing back China now, I think it's just really sensible. We see where Formula the Extreme E, where they're doing everything by boat and now rather than flying all the cargo. I think bringing Formula One a bit more into that eco world where we're just being really sensible with how we spend our fuels and burn it into the air. It's all sensible. But yes, Joe, now what? You know, what are the stories of this weekend? Well, Williams really are again the story, Joe, you know, of they just I really like James Vowles, and since he's sort of taken over team principal at Williams, I think he's just a really good Formula One guy. But they just seem to not have it together when it comes to being ready to race for the season.
It's a strange thing, and that's a fundamental thing. You need to be ready
Yes.
to race for the season. And Williams either haven't got the parts, they can't read their Excel properly, or you know they've got sacrificed drivers. I mean, it's a mess.
It is, and there's no. The problem is there's no contingency with these two cockpit monocoques, whatever you want to call them. We've had that discussion, you know.
Don't remind me.
The more I think about it, what happened in Australia, where Albon crashed, and then it was like, well, Albon's our number one driver, so he's jumping in the other car. Sorry, Logan, you're out of a race. I thought was terrible, and I can see one of two things happening from that, and that's either FIA will do a rule change where that can't happen because it's unfair. Logan Sargent made no mistakes, didn't crash, and he's out of a drive. And secondly, driver contracts. I think what's going to happen is people like Sargent are going to get put into their contracts. I am provided a car under any circumstance at a race event, and you know, and I will not give way to my teammate.
Well, he could sue. I mean, that's the thing. He's American. Yeah. I mean, they're
full of it.
Prone to suing. So I wouldn't be surprised actually if he was to seek compensation for that, and also for this, he had to race this race at Japan with basically a repaired chassis.
Yes.
And it's heavier because they've had to do more welding and put the thing together, but. Were they sure it was entirely safe? You know, what kind of checks? They didn't have a lot of time to actually.
They did talk about it being slightly heavier, didn't they? 100 kilograms heavier, or no, 100 grams heavier, not kilograms.
Maybe.
Yeah. So, but it's sort of irrelevant. I think they won't race it if it's not safe, if it's not under, you know, under the right scrutiny for FIA. So I don't think that's in question. The real thing here is obviously Albon has crashed again with Ricciardo on turn 1. It was a big crash, really, to be fair. Even though they clipped each other, they sort of crashed at different times rather than together. So I was a bit, hello, a lot of tyres everywhere. But they both got out the car. It was more track repairs than anything else that had to take place with the red flag. But here we are again. There's another crash for Williams and no contingency. So what's going to happen in China? Who's going to have a car? Are they both going to be in there?
We'll take it in turns. You
Yes.
change the driver at the pit stop as well.
Well, Joe, that
Le
could be an
Mans.
idea. Yeah, it is Le Mans, isn't it? So, yeah, sorry, Williams, you are the story of the weekend again, really. But do you know what? Logan actually had a good 3/4 of a race. He was up there in sort of 10th, 11th, in that area of, is he going to knock on the door for a point? And then he went off he sort of went on the curbs in Dagna 1 and couldn't slow down the car in Dagna 2 just before the bridge. And then when he reversed back onto the track, I was like, oh, no, no, no. This
Yeah.
is not good driving. So
It's not their luck, is it?
No.
Racing is not their thing.
No,
But, I mean, I just, again, it's organizational, and you need the best start. You watch Clarkson's farm. Half sown is half grown. Is Cheerful Charlie's favorite quote, and you really have to be prepared for this, because there's so much other stuff and there's so many distractions when you're around. I don't know. It's a shame. And what was the other car involved in that crash? Ricardo.
Yeah.
I was thinking, just as he was taking off, I thought, come on, Dan, you need a good race here, because there's a potential Red Bull seat. There's a lot of focus now. You're a contender. And then he went and crashed. And I think, I don't know, a bit 50-50. He wasn't really looking, and he did get tapped from behind, but he didn't see.
I think
I don't know.
turn 1 racing incident, Daniel took the racing line and just didn't expect Albon to be there. And I don't think anything will come of it. It's just really bad luck for Daniel and for Alex as well. But Daniel is having a really, really poor run of form right now. And he came back into that team halfway through the season to do better than Nick de Vries. And we all wanted Daniel back in the car. We all love Daniel Ricciardo. But Oscar's the new Australian boy, really, isn't he? And
Incredible.
is driving so well at McLaren. Took Ricciardo's seat, obviously, from there. I'm afraid we're getting close to a point where, is Liam Lawson going to have to be in that car? And has Daniel
I'd
had his day?
love to see Liam Lawson back. And actually, I think he's certainly proven he's got the talent. And,
Yep.
It'll cost less. And, you got to look to the future. I can't see Ricardo now being a real contender for the Red Bull seat.
No, I think we've got other people in line
there is
now,
one.
really. Yes. And Perez is doing his job right now. And
Yeah.
had he not had a grid penalty in Australia, it could have been a different result for him. So I think Perez is doing exactly what is being asked of him by Red Bull. And we must hats up to Perez. Hats off to Perez. You can do hats up as well. But
You can do hats up as well. But no,
he's doing everything.
Incredible. He's doing everything. He came second. Great tyre strategies, but we had lots of different tyre strategies here in this race.
Well,
for all the different teams.
We had mediums and softs. There was probably 4 drivers, I think, on softs. Everyone else was on mediums at the first start. But with the red flag, with the opportunity of having 25, 30 minutes in the pits, it threw the dice, basically. And if I can remember rightly, both Mercedes and what were the other cars that started on hard? There was another team that started on hard further down the grid, like Haas or something. I've got to be honest with you, I can't quite remember. But I remember seeing it. So there was sort of 4 or 5 on hards, 4 or 5 on softs, and the rest on mediums. But it was a real mix-up, and I was sat there watching it with our promoter, actually, on the tour bus, and I said to him, I've never seen such a mix of tyre strategy on a starting grid than this. This is going to be really interesting, and it's going to all come down to the last 10 laps. So we see Alonso on softs, and he held his position, and he stuck with the medium tyre runners. He is so good at making tyre strategies work. And once again, sure enough, Alonso, great tyre management. And then at the end of the race, great DRS management. I think we've seen him do it before, and he is making that Aston Martin look better than I think it is right now.
Hmm.
because
I
of
agree.
the way he drives. But I think so. For me, tire strategy with Alonso was brilliant. I think in on the opposite scale with Mercedes rolling the dice and going on hards, it was just too much. Hamilton was complaining after 13 laps. My tires are going. And they were the hards, and I'm
Mm.
like, come on, man. There's got to be tire management here. And there wasn't. And in the end, they had to abort that plan, go on to mediums, and see if they could catch up. Well, George Russell he put Piastri under pressure. I was a little bit worried he was
Mm.
going to run him off the track in a Senna Prost way at the
Yeah.
at the chicane. But he got the job done. He put him under pressure, and well done, George, for getting that. But what are we doing? We're saying well done for a 7th place in a Mercedes.
Yeah. And what, Hamilton ninth, I
Hamilton
think?
ninth, and quite
Yeah.
frankly, not good enough
Not good enough
for
at all.
7
And
times
when
world champion.
we know what he's going to do, he's going to blame the car.
Yeah.
And he's looking at the podium, and there's a Ferrari, and that's the guy whose seat he's going to take. So
Yes.
again, I'm salivating because I wish I had my DeLorean because I want to see this. I bet he's thinking now, look, it was the right decision. I cannot wait to get in that car, and but George is in front of him all the
Yeah.
time. So I don't know if you can quite blame the car for that one. I mean, they aborted the one stop as
Yeah.
well, as you said. I mean, because they just thought, well, look, we need some more pace here, so they switched to mediums.
I,
Go on.
I think Hamilton is one of these drivers that when the car is great, Hamilton is great. When the car is average, Hamilton is average. And he's got nothing to prove. This is the thing. George has still got something to prove, as has Carlos and Leclerc in the Ferrari. Both of them have got a lot to prove. Leclerc is this like world champion elect at some point in time, along with Verstappen. They said they're the ones. Verstappen's got nothing to prove. So I'd be curious, if he changes team at any point or Red Bull drop off with the new rule changes in 2026. Be interesting to see. But yeah, at the moment, I'm seeing an average Hamilton in an average Mercedes. What's the point, really?
Well, if you look at the mid-table, so I think someone who's very happy to clinch a mid-table was Yuki Tsunoda.
Yeah.
Home race for him in Japan, rubbing shoulders with royalty every time that he's there. He really is a star there. Even though I saw a lot of Red Bull shirts and a lot of McLaren shirts.
Yeah.
Apparently the McLaren merch stand was completely sold out.
Brilliant.
So yeah, a lot of other fans, but of course Yuki, and again, Daniel was out, but he's always outclassing Daniel, and he managed to get a point in.
Do you know what? Yuki is having a great season. Yes, it's his home race, and brilliant for him to score a point. I think it's the first Japanese
first
point
time.
scorer.
Yeah.
Well, Japanese hit for him. It's his first time, and it's the first one in 12 years since Kobayashi, I think, got a point in the Japanese Grand Prix. So brilliant for Japan, brilliant for Yuki.
With street parties all night.
But you know what? The big story here actually is the fact that when you are a driver, who's the first person you've got to beat? You've got to beat your teammate. Yuki is driving the socks off that car and making Daniel look really average. Daniel was meant to come in and show Yuki how to do it. And
yeah.
hats off to Yuki. There's a lot of hats off going on today.
A lot of hats off.
I think
keep your caps off your head.
He's had a great weekend. He's having a great season so far, and doing everything to get everything, because there's really for the back 5 teams there are no points available, because the top 5 teams will take the top 10 slots. We obviously saw Verstappen retire. So that opened a slot up. But of course, who's the person that's creating this 10th place is Lance Stroll. He's not putting that Aston Martin in the top 10, where he's in a top 10 car. Come on, Lance.
I just stopped the
Come
clock.
on, Lance.
Seeing how long it would take for you to get to Lance. Yeah.
But he's still not delivering. Alonso is making the car look better than it is. I'm afraid the car is, the car and Lance, in it is just not good enough again, and he should be taking 10th place. He's in the 5th best car, and he's the
Well,
10th
if it
best
if it
driver.
wasn't for the obvious circumstances around Lance's position in the team, you could say that would be a good target for Sainz. You have two Spaniards in the team. I think that could be a very potent combination.
Well,
These Aston Martins are fast. They're up there. Where did Alonso finish?
for,
5th, 6th?
Alonso finished 6th,
Yeah,
and it was a great strategical drive again by a great, one of the greats.
beating Mercedes.
But there's
They're
nothing.
the new team. Sorry, they're the new 4th team, I think.
Yeah,
And Mercedes is not in that top 4. So yeah, I think Lance definitely has to make more of that car. Everything is there at his disposal. Something isn't clicking. Something isn't right. I don't know. Is he blaming the car again? Is blaming other things? Is he just not good enough?
it, mate, everything comes out in the wash. And quite simply, the dream that Lawrence Stroll had of making his son Formula One world champion in his car, in his, the family business, we've talked about it. The
Yeah.
dream, the bubble has burst last season, really, with Alonso coming in and driving the socks off it. If there's going to be a world champion in Aston Martin, it's not going to be Lance Stroll.
No.
It's as simple as that.
Could
So,
be Carlos Sainz. I like that idea.
it wouldn't surprise me if Lawrence Stroll sold the team in the next 12 months and
then
moved
it could
on
happen.
because the bubbles burst in the way that we felt the bubbles burst for Perez. But Perez is doing a great job. But who's to say that Alonso will be in that Aston Martin next season? He's not contracted. I think Alonso and Sainz are in the running for that Red Bull second seat if Perez doesn't get it. Ahead of
Really?
Ricciardo. I do.
Do you reckon Alonso would go fit in the Red Bull?
I'm throwing it out there.
Well, there we go. Some predictions. Okay.
Yeah.
It's
I'm
interesting.
throwing it in the mix.
I'd like to see some younger talent. I think Liam Lawson definitely deserves a shot.
Yep.
Where's Mick Schumacher this season? I mean, he's doing another series, isn't he? He's driving something else to keep his chops up. But
he doesn't.
Again,
other than
not
the
in the mix.
name, he's not exciting me to be the next driver. They're talking about this Antonelli
from
guy.
Mercedes.
Yes, they're talking about him, but I don't know anything about him. So
he's managed by Toto.
we need it, right. Okay.
So maybe that's why he's in the running. Yeah.
Yeah, as Ocon is as well, and Ocon in that Alpine at the moment. Let's talk about Alpine.
Alpine. Oh god, come on, Ryan Reynolds, put your Wrexham magic on it. Come on.
I just sat and watched Alpine with their 2 French drivers whilst I'm in France with our French promoter, who is a big Gasly and Ocon fan. Wow. The full, this is a championship winning team from the Alonso years and the Michael Schumacher years of the 90s and 2000s.
Unlimited resources as well.
Yes. Renault, come on, Renault. You've had some great cars, and I loved it. I loved the yellow Renaults, and I loved the Benetton. What's happened to this setup? They lost Otmar, who for me is a great team principal and great personality.
And they've lost a lot more strategy guys and senior guys recently. Technical managers, I think, have gone, and there's a massive shake-up behind the scenes.
And and they are bottom of the Constructors' Championship. Now, I'm just looking at it, and I know there's there's 3 teams with 0 points: Williams, Sauber, and Alpine. But Haas look much better. RB Yuki is driving the socks off it. But they're scrapping for 10th place. These teams, the top teams are investing. I know we've seen Mercedes drop down, but they're 1 point ahead of Aston Martin actually in 4th. But Red Bull are running away, and I am loving the fact we're seeing Carlos drive for his life.
He is driving to survive. This is his audition piece now.
This is it.
Fire is in his belly, out of his appendix, and he's still got stitches and padding on, I'm sure, to recover from that op he had. And the fact he is just performing so well, it should be a warning to these other drivers who just rock up and go, "Oh, I'll have a drive."
He's gaining a lot of fans, and Leclerc is there, just driving safely. as those teams did, they all went medium tire strategy at the start, the
Mm.
safe two-stop option, which was ultimately the right way to go. But Science did tire management again and came in with much fresher tires later pit stop and
Mm.
just drove straight past his teammate for a podium
Unbelievable.
position.
Unbelievable.
Brilliant.
It's like Charles didn't even fight for it,
Nope. No, well, he knew there was no point because of the tires.
Sure.
So Carlos Sainz, there's a hats off as well. So there's my hat trick of hats off. You know, Alonso,
Give us a double
Tsunoda,
thumbs up. Give us a
that-
double thumbs up, Darren. There's a hat trick of. Oh no, it didn't work for you.
it was going to do it. I thought it was going to do it.
Is it
So
gonna do it? Yeah, there you
you
go.
got
A
it.
hat trick.
Why-
Hat trick of caps off. I don't
Oh,
know.
mate, look
You
at
need to
you.
update
It's,
your OS.
it's because you're nearer the Burj Khalifa than me, so you get
I'm
the
near the
fireworks
Burj
every
Khalifa.
day.
We're
Yeah.
talking to bees. You're in Bordeaux, I hear at the moment.
Yes, yeah, I am. So
What are
we're
you
on
up to?
we're on our final week of the Queen Extravaganza tour of Europe. So we've been out in France playing some big Zenith arenas for the last 2 weeks.
Mhm.
And on Tuesday, we played Nice, and we had a day off when we arrived down there in the south of France. So I took the boys on a little walk around the track in Monaco.
Fantastic.
So our Brazilian singer Illyrio and our young drummer George Farah, who are both Formula One fans, have never been to a race, but I said, come on, we're going to go and do this. So we walked around the track, and our bass player, who can't even drive yet because he's choosing not to, was so bored that we were having the time of our lives. It was a beautiful day. The track surface just looks absolutely perfect. All the grandstands are going up, and
where did you walk? Did you do the whole
so
thing?
we arrived in
section?
Casino Square. We got the train in from Nice, arrived at Casino Square, walked down Mirabeau, went into the shopping centre, grabbed a coffee, had a little walk around the Lowe's hairpin, Fairmont Hotel hairpin, whatever you want to call it, through the tunnel like you do, down to the marina, and then we walked through the pit lane as well, because everything was sort of open to walk around, and then back up Saint Devote to Casino Square. So we did the full whack, and then I took the boys into the casino, and we did a little bit of gambling in the casino as well, just to say that we could and have.
Well, remember, if you're watching at home, to gamble responsibly and to know your limits.
Let me tell you, between three of us, we put €30 in and lost the lot.
Wow, Queen's paying well these days.
Oh yeah, it was just to say we've done that. So I've done Vegas. I've gambled in Vegas. I've gambled in Monaco, and so money. ABBA will be very happy with me.
Well, also, I think we are going to be in Monaco this year, which is going to be amazing. And I even though you did walk up the guys, I wouldn't count that as walking the track, because it wasn't like a post-race thing, or the setup wasn't there.
Joe, do you know what?
Street,
Do you know what? So it is an open street with cars on it, and a lot of the infrastructure's there. And in fact, I did scratch my arm on the Armco up Saint Devote, so I got a little war wound. But do you know, walking the track straight after the race, which I've done at many of them now, and it's sort of how we should do a podcast, really, is walking along the track, our very own post-race thing sometime, is such a special occasion and event to do. You and I have done it together at Silverstone, and I've done it in Australia and various other tracks. So there we go, Joe. That's our plan. But yes, we're going to be in Monaco together.
So we need to do that. We need to do that in Monaco to walk that, because I've never been, and it'd be great to see these parts, with that famous bump as you come down the hill towards that kind of hairpin, and the Fairmont bit, and obviously the tunnel, all of it. Racehouse.
Walking through the tunnel is brilliant, mate, and you don't realise that the sea is right next to the tunnel, so you're literally walking on the sea's edge.
Wow.
Whilst walking through the tunnel, and you never see that on the TV, because the TV is always looking at the sponsorships against the wall, of the garages. But it's such a special thing to do, and I'd recommend anybody, when you go to the south of France, go and spend a day in Monaco walking around. And people say, "Oh, it's way too expensive." What? Do you know what? I had a beautiful lunch for 25 euros, a salmon lunch just on the start finish straight, and you can do it really sensibly. The train was €12, cheap as anything.
Well, there you go. For €50, you could have a nice little day out, a couple of
Yeah.
coffees, and see a Formula One track, which is very agreeable. And we'll talk about this for Monaco, but there are spots of the Monaco Grand Prix. You can find little patches of hills where you can watch the race for free. So if you go down there, you can actually see the Monaco Grand Prix for free.
For me, Joe, it's not just about seeing the cars; it's actually just sampling the atmosphere and the carnival event that is in the town centre as well as on the track. The track's all fenced off unless you get up on the hills to look over. But the atmosphere is just phenomenal.
Well, we'll save this for our Monaco Grand Prix.
Of course. Well, Joe, getting back to this season so far, the other little stat that is happening is every single race has been a 1-2 finish for a team. So Red Bull in Bahrain and Saudi, and then Ferrari in Australia get a 1-2, and then today back to Red Bull 1-2 again. And I don't know if that's an ongoing stat that may never have been done before. I'd be curious. I'd like to see a McLaren 1-2, please, in China.
Yes, let's do it. I think McLaren, look, it's a pretty good start to the season compared to last year.
Yep.
The cars are looking good, the drivers are looking good. I think they're in the zone. They're just going to wait for that mistake to happen up the front, and they're going to be straight through.
Well, I thought at one point today when Norris did his pit stop early, I thought, hello, is he going to catch Verstappen here on hard tyres with Verstappen's older mediums? But they just went off the boil, didn't they, after about 7 or 8 laps of push. But I thought, you know what? This season is all about tyre strategy. And I know today wasn't the most exciting race when it comes to the racing, but we saw a big crash. We saw lots and lots of passes because of tyre strategy and people rolling the dice, and we all know anything can happen. But the trouble is, if Red Bull just play sensible, that's all they need to do. They don't need to roll the dice.
I fear we're going to have another season of domination. And I mean, you kind of see that in qualifying. You go, oh, here we go again. But that car is just super fast. Yes. And, there is still some internal conflict in Red Bull. But the thing I'm keeping my eye on is Adrian Newey going to be poached? And if he's poached by another team, maybe Ferrari, that would be my money.
Does he need to do that?
I don't think he needs to, but I think like any driver, there's always that thing, as you say, people's minds. It'd be amazing to design for that team, amazing to drive for that team, be part of that team. You could see Adrian Newey going, and what a potent cocktail you've got there. You've got great team, you've got fast car, you've got former multiple world champion, and you've got the probably the best car designer that's ever lived. That is incredible. So I don't think it's just about money, because Adrian can earn plenty of money wherever he is. But I don't know. Depends on contracts. I don't know.
Do you know what? I love the idea. So we're going to put Alonso in a Red Bull and move Adrian Newey across to Ferrari with Lewis Hamilton. This is the thing with Formula One.
Will drive both cars.
Formula One moves so fast. We're going to sit down and do our next podcast. There's always something to talk about. And for me, this race did have interest, and it's how we move forward and what they learn from this race with the tyre.
And on Sky News the other day, who's been popping up all over the news channels, doing little interviews here and there?
Not Günther Steiner, is it?
No. German.
Well, not Mick Schumacher. Joe, I don't know who you're referring to. Tell me.
He loves bees.
Sebastian Vettel.
Sebastian Vettel has been all over the news recently, talking about like a new drink, purple, that he's got. And he's been questioned, would you go back in and all this? And maybe Mercedes. He goes, well, I've been talking to Toto, but no, nothing guaranteed. We saw this with Schumacher. He left and he returned.
Yep.
Could we see Vettel's return?
We saw it with Kimi as well. Kimi Räikkönen. Yeah,
true.
And we've seen it with Alonso. So this is not anything new.
Put that in the mix. Boom.
There we
boom,
go.
Boom, boom.
There's a lot to do. We need, for me, the biggest disappointment with the 2024 season so far is there's firstly been no driver changes and secondly, no rookies.
Yeah.
And we need to see driver changes. We need to see people moving around. And because of the Hamilton early announcement this season, there's a lot to happen and change for next season. So yeah, come on, let's put Sebastian in there for fun as well, shall we?
Let's put Sebastian in the mix for next season. And meanwhile, we're looking for the next race. Looking forward to
Yes.
that, which is China. And China's been off the calendar for a while, so it'd be interesting to see how the teams adapt. And they're going to have to adapt quickly. They won't have a lot of time to actually get used to the track with practice times. I believe it's a sprint race. Is that right?
I haven't looked, if I'm totally honest with you. So I
We'll
will
have to
take you.
check
I'll
it
take
out.
your word on that. What I
Maybe so.
love, what if slight preview now for it, but what I love about the Shanghai track is it's got one of the longest back straights down into the hairpin, just towards the end of that, and for us to see the fact that DRS is coming in early now, they're making them longer. It seems to have had a big effect, didn't it, on the start finish straight today. I love that long straight, and I think we've got that long straight in Azerbaijan to come up as well. We want to see these cars traveling as fast as they possibly can down into these really tight corners, and that's what I love. That's what I'm looking forward to
It's
with
super fast,
Shanghai,
super challenging, and
and
go on.
we'll never forget it about Lewis crashing into the pit lane in 2007, which
Ah,
ended up meaning he lost his rookie world championship. So
that's right.
lots has happened at Shanghai and lots more to come. Go on, Joe. You were going to say.
I was going to say, yeah, super fast, super crazy. It reminds me of MotoGP in Qatar, which I went to, I worked at. And, cars, F1 cars are one thing, but to see the guys on motorbikes doing this is insane. And it's so exciting, so thrilling. And no wonder then that Liberty Global, who own Formula One, have just bought MotoGP.
Ah,
Which is huge news. Dorna Sport have sold it for about 4 billion, I think.
hmm
So now we're going to start to see this value add-in as Liberty have done to F1 to MotoGP. They're going to really get involved. I can see MotoGP becoming even more popular than it is already. And you imagine doing what the F1 drivers do, but without hardly any of the protection. And it's a serious, serious skill. And you see these guys chucking themselves around the corners at stupid speeds. I've got a bike license, motorbike license, but I won't be doing that. I'll go for a cruise maybe one day out in the countryside, but I'm not going to be doing that.
I was talking about MotoGP the other day because somebody asked me if I was into it, and I said, you know what? For me, it's never had the appeal of cars, but that's just because my dad sat with me and watched the cars, and the fact that there's just no protection, they are probably there just in their leathers, and it just reminds me again of the go-karting where all these Formula One drivers have done it. They're there with no protection at all, and there was a big crash where a kid got thrown out yesterday at the Super One. Round one, and ambulances out. Oh my God, this is really, really, really dangerous. And we just have to remember that all these racing drivers, of any age, but whether it's MotoGP, Formula One, IndyCar, it's really dangerous all the
Mhm.
time, and they're putting their lives on the line, even though the safety is the best it's ever been. But yeah, the motorbikes for me, I just can't even watch them go around a corner. It's just my God, how, and the angles they do. So wouldn't it be interesting to have a MotoGP race at a Formula One weekend?
So this is the news. This is what they are currently thinking of, and it would save them a ton of money. You'd have a hell of a lot more people there at the track. You'd have all the viewers watching at the same time. Could you do MotoGP on Saturday, F1 on Sunday? Could that work? You've got the big infrastructure, the setup. You're going to save a ton on freight, on logistics, and the fan essentially gets 2 for 1.
For me,
So
it's not about the money saving, Joe. It's more again about just being, very green with the transport and not
but
using everything.
these guys are a business, and I think this is what they're going to kind of think about. I think from the fan experience, though, I mean, I would love to see that, to be able to see a MotoGP and a Formula One race at the same weekend. Fantastic, because it's like going to a festival. You're
Yeah.
seeing kind of different things. However, does it diminish the impact or strength of the MotoGP brand? Because I'm sure it will play second fiddle to F1, because it's a smaller
I,
thing
I
and not as many people watch it.
They don't, and I'm definitely one of those. But the point is having it in front of you and just exposing Formula One fans to it, once or twice a season, not the whole thing, will just ignite enough. It's about percentages. It's not about everybody. It's just a percentage of people migrate across or look at both or just get into all of it. And just the fact of seeing the motorbikes going around the same tracks as the Formula One as well, so you've got a
Yeah,
comparison.
they often
I think
follow
that's
each other
I
around the
think
world,
that's
don't they?
interesting. Yeah, they do. Yeah, but Liberty Media will bring that TV coverage and excitement and promotion to it that,
MotoGP
they're so
do
good at.
Portimao still,
We
and
know it well,
so
Joe.
yeah, I actually found the photo of us on the track earlier. But I just really hope they go, well, we're gonna have to do F1 at Portimao again, which was one of my favorite ever circuits to go to. But we could go on forever and ever and
Joe,
ever because we love F1.
Considering you said to me this, I don't know what we're going to talk about. I found that race boring. We've done a blooming
Someone once
good
said
job.
to me, "There's always something to talk about."
Yeah.
And I think we should go into commentary, which is fun. I thought this last time. I'm going to say it now so we get it out of the way. Sky Sports F1 have had a bit of a change up this season. So not everyone is traveling to the circuits. They've had Natalie and Karen and different people in the Sky Sports studio in Chiswick. And it's a bit and also Crofty is not traveling to as many of the races. Martin Brundle wasn't there today. I didn't see him. What's going on? It's a bit of a half and half. I mean, are they kind of letting people have a bit of a break?
I think it's about burnout. I think 24 races for a season. Okay, these drivers are mega athletes on mega money, but for a lot of the supporting network of Formula One, especially where a lot of these people are in their mid 30s to 50 year old, they've got young families, and I know what it's like. I've been away from home since the 20th of February with 3 kids at home and a wife. It's not fair on them. I'm having the time of my life and touring around. But there's got to be a balance, and you're going to get the best out of people when there's a balance. And I think that's what Sky are definitely doing, is making it sensible and fair across the board. So it's just 24 races is just massive, just to get your body clock to work, let alone because when you get home, you know what it's like, Joe. You get home from the Formula One meeting, you need 2 days to recover.
Really
so then that's not fair when you get home. I know when I get home, my wife's like, right, there's the kids, there's the school run, there's the you crack on, and I'm like,
yeah, but you imagine being a mechanic and then you get 1 or 2 days back home, and then you got to fly out again and get to the next one, or you're doing double headers. So on those guys as well, I think presenters is one thing. I mean, it's hard enough just doing a podcast every time.
I know. We're like, when are we going to schedule in? How are we going to do it? But you know what? It's
it's a labor of love. It's passion.
It is a labor of love. It is a passion. You and I, we've done this podcast because we've worked in Formula One together. We talk about Formula One together. It's like, well, why don't we just talk about it? And if people want to listen, they can definitely listen. It's up, and we love it.
Yeah, and we love it, and we love you guys for your comments and everything in there. And we actually have a live viewer. Lucas is watching us live, which I've just realised.
Oh, is he? That's
he's
hilarious.
just messaged hi. So hi, Lucas, and well done your performance on the wet tyres. I heard all about that.
Well, it was wet tyres for qualifying. It was slicks for the race, but qualified 28th on wets in a dry condition and finished 12th in the final yesterday in round 1 of the Super One Championships. We've got round 2 today, so if you go onto YouTube and search Super One Live, you will find my son Lucas Reeves racing in round 2.
Fantastic. Good luck, Lucas, there. And we've got Wick as well, who said, appreciate it, mate. Who's Wick? Does that ring a bell?
Not a clue.
Username? Okay. Well, hi, Wick. How you doing? Thanks a lot. This is the great thing about doing the live stream. We can actually get some live comments in here.
Well, let's get some questions in, guys, because we'd love to be able to answer some questions or find out the answers if we don't know them. So please Please,
And there's
please interact
plenty,
with us.
plenty we don't know.
Oh yes,
Or that even
test
Mr.
us, test
Yeah,
us.
exactly. It'll be a test. Well, good luck to Lucas. Oh, and Wick just said, just a new subscriber. I found your channel today. Well, thanks, Wick. We've got plenty of videos you can go through and check out our previous stuff. We just love talking about Formula One, and we used to work for many, many years at Formula One in the Paddock Club and everywhere. So thank you for subscribing, and
Joe,
I hope you
we're
enjoy.
still working at Formula One, Joe. Don't give me the used to.
Well, yeah, I
Yep.
know. We don't. We
Yep.
just don't need to keep running around. We do have a question from Wick. Get in. This is
Ah,
great. So he says, "How is it looking like for Danny Rick after his crash today?" And we did talk about this earlier, but I think we'll briefly mention. Probably not looking good. I mean, we thought Danny Rick would, you know, be a real contender for a potential Red Bull seat. But his performance just hasn't been great. He hasn't been able to show up Sonoda. He hasn't been able to show up Liam Lawson really either. And with this whole new rebrand and everything, a fresh start for Danny Rick. Today, perhaps he was a bit unlucky. I think a bit of his driving, maybe Verstappen intimated that he was looking left, he wasn't looking right. But well, Darren, you said it best. He's just not driving good enough.
he's come back in, with his big smile. We love Danny Rick. He's been a wonderful ambassador for Australia as well as Formula One. He's come back in fighting for that Red Bull seat for 2025. But Yuki is driving the socks off that RB car right now and making Daniel look very average. Daniel's not had the luck that he needs as well, especially when he broke his hand and Liam Lawson came in. I've got to be honest with you. I can see Liam Lawson coming back in 2 or 3 races' time if Danny's luck doesn't
Do you
change.
reckon in 2 or 3 races?
Well, they did it to Nick de Vries. Why wouldn't they do it to Daniel Ricciardo?
Yeah, I mean that's true. I forgot about Nick, and that was
Yep.
really cruel for Nick de Vries because this was his moment to be in F1, and then just didn't really have it. They didn't do that with Piastri. I mean,
No.
Piastri got given time, and you need time to adapt. But
But-
Ricciardo has had plenty of time in an F1 car over the years.
Oh, yeah. And we know he can deliver. But the point is, right now, it's all about now. It's not about the past. It's about now. And Yuki is making that car. Actually, I think this is the best Yuki's driven. And to get a point at his home race in Japan, well done, Yuki. Daniel, you've got to do it now.
Yeah, Wick, where are you from? If you could just type in which country you are, that'd be amazing. So we could talk about that and just see where you are. Look, again, this was a race, Japanese Grand Prix. The weather was a bit unpredictable. It was cloudy, then it was brilliant sunshine. The track temperature was about 40 degrees as well. Look, I don't know. I think I was a bit bored by the race. I think I said that just pre-show, like nothing really much happened, but talking it through, a lot did happen. A lot of tire strategies, and but still, it was a faster car that won the day. And Wick, you're a Brit. You're in Britain. Well, nice to hear from a fellow Brit. We're going on now. This is one of our latest ones, but do join us next time for the Chinese Grand Prix. When is that, Darren?
I think it's 2 weeks' time. I haven't got the calendar in front of me. I've just brought up the Super One timings just in case. I don't know what time they're starting.
But weeks, I think. And then we're on to Miami, aren't we? After that,
that's it. Over to Miami, which for me, well, we don't need to talk about Miami now at all. But you and I, Joe, we're on the countdown to being in Monaco and really looking forward to it.
Certainly, Monaco, and have fun in Bordeaux.
Thank you.
I'll send you a couple of tips of things you got to see.
Please do it quickly.
But you're in France. You're in France, so there's plenty of food and plenty of wine.
Oh, mate, too much food. I've got to go on a diet.
Wick says, I will do. So thanks very much, Wick, for subscribing, and we'll see you on the next one. So from now, it's goodbye from me, Joe Lee.
And it's goodbye from me, Darren Reeves. Take care.